Every story leaves something behind. A whisper, a shadow, a question that was never answered. Here, we dig through the forgotten files, the unsolved mysteries, the chilling true crimes, and the horrors people wish had stayed buried. From haunted legends to real-life nightmares, every tale is pulled straight from the horror archives. So turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and step carefully, because once a story enters the horror archives, it never truly leaves.
This video is about the Nextdoor app, the neighborhood platform where people post about lost pets, yard sales, and local recommendations. It's supposed to make your community feel smaller and safer, but sometimes it does the opposite. These are 5 true stories from people who found something deeply wrong in their own neighborhood, posted right there on the app for everyone to see. The first story is called The Free Piano on Maple. It's about a free listing that seemed too good to pass up, and the thing hidden inside that made the narrator wish they'd never brought it home. The listing said the piano had to go by midnight. That was the first thing that struck me as odd. Not by end of week, not by Saturday, by midnight tonight. It was posted on Nextdoor around 6 in the evening, and the photo showed a beautiful upright piano sitting on the curb in front of a house on Maple Street, about 4 blocks from mine. The description was simple: free piano, must be picked up tonight. Do not knock on the door. I'd been looking for a piano for my daughter for months. She just started lessons, and even a beat-up upright would have been perfect. So I messaged the poster, a profile named Linda M., and asked if it was still available. She responded almost immediately. Yes, come before midnight. Do not ring the bell. Just take it. I thought maybe she had a sleeping baby or a night shift spouse. People have their reasons. I borrowed my neighbor's truck and drove over around 8:30. Maple Street was quiet. Most of the houses had their porch lights on, but the house with the piano, 4412, was completely dark. Every window. The piano sat at the end of the driveway under the streetlight, and it looked even nicer in person. A Yamaha dark walnut finish, barely a scratch on it. I backed the truck up and started trying to figure out how to load it alone. That's when I noticed the bench was still with it, and on the bench was a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. It said, "Thank you for taking it. Please do not open the top panel. The felt is damaged and the strings are exposed. It could cut you." Reasonable enough. I got the piano into the truck bed with a furniture dolly I'd brought, strapped it down, and drove home. It was heavy, but I managed to get it into the living room by myself. I sat down and played a few keys. It sounded beautiful, perfectly in tune, which surprised me for a free piano. My daughter was asleep, so I figured I'd surprise her in the morning. I was about to head to bed when I remembered the note. Don't open the top panel. And of course, that's exactly what I wanted to do now. I told myself I'd just peek. I unlatched the top and lifted it. The felt wasn't damaged. The strings weren't exposed. But sitting in the belly of the piano, resting on the soundboard, was a small digital camera. It was on. The red recording light was blinking. I picked it up and turned the screen toward me. It was showing a live fade of my living room from somewhere else. I looked around. I checked every corner, every shelf. I couldn't find a second camera anywhere, but the angle on the feed wasn't from inside the piano. It was from across the room, near the bookshelf. I still couldn't find it. I went back to Nextdoor to message Linda M. Her profile was gone. The listing was gone. I searched Maple Street on Google Maps. 4412 Maple doesn't exist. The houses go from 4410 to 4414. I put the piano on the curb that night. By morning it was gone, but I never found the second camera. I've moved the bookshelf. I've checked behind every book, every frame, every outlet cover. Nothing, but sometimes when I'm sitting in the living room at night, I get this feeling, like the red light is still on somewhere. And the next story is one that really got under my skin. It's called The Dog Walker Who Knew My Yard. This one is about a Nextdoor post that seemed like an innocent lost pet notice, until the narrator realized it was never about a dog at all. I found the post on a Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday, I was locking my doors during the day for the first time in 11 years. Someone on Nextdoor had posted a photo of my backyard, not the front of my house, my backyard. The angle was taken from inside my fence line, near the oak tree by the shed, pointing toward my kitchen window. The post was in the pets and animals section, The caption read, "Lost dog seen in this yard. Brown and white, no color. If this is your home, please check your shed." The poster's name was Gerald T. No profile picture. Account created that day. I don't have a dog. I've never had a dog. And the shed in the photo was open. I always keep it padlocked. I went out to check. The padlock was still on, still locked, but there were muddy footprints on the concrete pad in front of the shed door. They weren't mine. They were too narrow, too long, and they didn't lead away from the shed. They led to it. I commented on the post asking Gerald when the photo was taken. He replied within minutes. "Last night around 11, I was walking my dog past your house and heard barking from the backyard. Your gate was open, so I went in to check. Sorry for the intrusion. My gate has a latch that locks from the inside. You can't open it from the street." I reported the post and messaged Nextdoor support, but by the time they responded, Gerald's account had been deleted. I showed the photo to my wife, and she noticed something I hadn't. In the kitchen window, in the reflection, you could see the faint shape of a person standing at the sink. That was the window above our kitchen sink. My wife checked the timestamp on the post, 11:14 p.m. She'd been washing dishes at 11 that night. The photo wasn't taken to find a dog. It was taken to show someone what my wife looked like at the sink at 11 p.m. on a Monday. I installed cameras that week, motion activated, covering the backyard, the gate, and the shed. For 3 weeks, nothing. Then on a Thursday night, the backyard camera triggered at 2 in the morning. The footage showed a figure standing at the oak tree, in the exact spot the photo had been taken from. He was facing the kitchen window. He stood there for 40 minutes without moving. Then he turned, looked directly at the camera, and walked calmly to the back fence. He climbed it and disappeared into the alley. His face was covered, but he was carrying something in his left hand. It took me a long time staring at the freeze frame to figure out what it was. It was a key, a small key, the same size as the one for my shed padlock. I changed the lock. I put razor wire on the back fence. I filed a police report. They said without an identifiable face, there wasn't much they could do. I check the Nextdoor app every day now. Not for community news. I'm looking for another post from Gerald T. because I don't think he was walking a dog, and I don't think he's done walking past my house. And story number 3 is called The Neighbor Who Moved In Twice. At first it seems like a simple glitch on the app, a duplicate welcome post from a new neighbor, but the details don't line up. And by the end, the narrator can't be sure who's actually living in that house. The welcome post for 309 Birchwood Court went up on a Saturday. New to the neighborhood, excited to meet everyone. The usual. The profile name was Claire Dunham, and she'd posted a photo of herself on the front porch of the house, smiling, holding a moving box. A few people commented with welcomes and restaurant suggestions. I liked the post and moved on. 2 days later, an identical post went up. Same section, same neighborhood. New to the neighborhood, excited to meet everyone. But this time the profile name was Claire Dunham Price. Different last name, same first name, same photo. Exact same photo, same porch, same box, same smile. But when I looked closer, I realized it wasn't quite the same. In the second photo, the house number on the porch pillar was slightly different. The first photo showed 309. The second photo showed 309, but the 9 was upside down, like a 6. I thought it was a glitch, a duplicate post. Maybe she'd changed her profile name after getting married or something. But then I read the comments on the second post. People were welcoming her again, but none of them were the same people from the first post. Different commenters entirely. And some of the names I didn't recognize at all, even though I'd been on the neighborhood Nextdoor for 3 years and knew most of the regulars. I went back to the first post. It was gone, completely deleted. I searched for Claire Dunham. Nothing. Only Claire Dunham Price existed now. I mentioned it to my wife that evening. She said I was overthinking it, but that night I couldn't sleep, so I pulled up the Nextdoor app and looked at Claire Dunham Price's profile. She had no other posts, no comments, but her profile said she'd been a member since 2019. 4 years. For someone who just moved in. The next morning I walked past 309 Birchwood on my way to the mailbox. There was a woman on the porch, arranging potted plants. She waved. I waved back and introduced myself. She said her name was Claire. I asked if she was settling in okay, and she said she'd been here for about a week. I asked casually if she'd made 2 posts on Nextdoor. She looked confused. She said she didn't have Nextdoor. She said she'd never posted anything. She said her last name was Dunham, and she didn't know what Dunham Price was. Someone had used her photo, her address, and a version of her name to create a profile on the app. Someone who had been close enough to photograph her on her own porch during the move. I told her she should be careful. She laughed a little and said I was sweet for worrying. I went home and checked the app one more time. Claire Dunham Price had made a new post. It was in the recommendations section. It said, "Can anyone recommend a good locksmith? I just moved in, and I think the previous owner may have kept a copy of my key." I drove back to 309 Birchwood to show Claire the post. Her car was in the driveway, but she didn't answer the door. The potted plants she'd been arranging that morning were knocked over. One was shattered on the porch steps. I called the police. They did a welfare check. Claire answered the door and said she was fine. She said she'd knocked the plant over herself. She said she was just tired from unpacking, but when she opened the door, she only opened it about 6 inches. And behind her, in the hallway, there was a shadow that moved. It moved before she did, and then the door closed. The Claire Dunham Price profile is still active. It hasn't posted since, but it goes online every night between 2 and 4 a.m. I know because I check. I can't stop checking. And this next story is the one that made me pause before recording. It's called The Safety Alert That Named Me. It's about a Nextdoor safety alert that contained the narrator's full legal name, posted by someone who could apparently see him. In real time, someone posted a safety alert on my neighborhood Nextdoor with my full name in it. Not my username, my real legal full name. First, middle, last. The post said, "Be on the lookout for suspicious activity near the home of Ryan Michael Estes on Sycamore Lane. Individual seen photographing the property multiple times this week." Description: male, average height, dark clothing. Do not approach. I saw it at 6 in the morning while drinking coffee. I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking by the 3rd read. Not because someone had been watching my house, although that was terrifying enough, but because the person who posted the alert had no profile picture, no post history, and their account name was just the letter R. I don't use my real name on Nextdoor. I go by a nickname. Nobody in the neighborhood calls me Ryan Michael. Even my wife calls me Mike. The only place my full legal name exists locally is on my mortgage paperwork and my mailbox. And my mailbox just says R. Estes. The comments were flooding in. Neighbors were concerned. Some offered to do drive-bys. One woman said she'd seen a dark sedan parked on the street near my house 2 nights ago, with someone sitting inside. Another person said they'd noticed footprints in the snow along my side yard that morning. I went outside. It had snowed lightly overnight, and there were footprints. They ran along the side of my house, from the front yard to the back. They stopped at my bedroom window. There were no return prints. Whoever made them had walked to the window and then, I don't know, there were no tracks leading away in any direction. I went back inside and tried to message the account that posted the alert. My message wouldn't go through. The profile had been deactivated, but the post was still up, and now it had 40 comments. I called the police. An officer came out and looked at the footprints. He said they were unusual. The tread pattern was smooth, like dress shoes, not boots, and the stride length was consistent. Unhurried. Whoever walked to my window wasn't running or sneaking. They were walking normally, like they belonged there. The officer asked if I wanted to file a report. I did. He left. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off, watching the side yard through the blinds. At 1:30 in the morning, a new post appeared on Nextdoor. Same section, safety alert, same account, R, somehow reactivated. The post read, update on the situation near Sycamore Lane. Ryan Michael Estes is now awake and sitting in his living room with the lights off. Please continue to monitor. I dropped my phone. I looked outside. I looked at every window. I saw nothing. No one on the street. No car. No figure in the yard. But someone could see me. Right then, in real time, I turned on every light in the house and woke my wife. We checked every door, every window. Everything was locked. Everything was secure. I called the police again. They came. They found nothing. The post was deleted by the time the officers arrived, but I'd taken screenshots. The officer looked at them and said something that still keeps me up at night. He said the metadata on the screenshots showed the post had been created from a device connected to my home Wi-Fi network. We've since moved. Different city, different state. I don't use Nextdoor anymore. But last week, my wife was setting up the Wi-Fi at our new house and found an unknown device connected to the network. It had been connected for 3 days. We'd only had internet for 4. She disconnected it. That night, our Ring doorbell captured 16 seconds of footage at 3 a.m. It showed our front porch empty, but the welcome mat had been turned upside down, and on the back of it, written in black marker, were 2 words, "Still monitoring." And this last story is the hardest one to tell. It's called the Babysitter recommendation thread. I'm going to warn you now. This one involves a child, and it's the kind of story that makes you realize how much trust we put in strangers, based on nothing more than a comment on an app. I need to talk about the Babysitter thread. I don't care if people think I'm paranoid. I know what I saw, and I know what almost happened. My wife and I had just moved to a new development outside of Raleigh. We didn't know anyone. Our daughter was 3. We needed a date night, so I did what every parent in a new neighborhood does. I posted on Nextdoor asking for babysitter recommendations. Within an hour, I had 8 replies. Most were local high schoolers, a few college students, 1 retired teacher. The usual, but one recommendation stood out. A woman named Patris commented and said her niece, Abby, had been babysitting in the neighborhood for years. Great with kids, CPR certified, flexible schedule. She even linked to Abby's profile, which had a professional-looking photo and a short bio. I messaged Abby through the app. She was friendly, responsive, and available Friday night. She asked the normal questions: food allergies, bedtime routine, emergency contacts. She said she charged $15 an hour and would bring activities. Everything felt right. Friday came. Abby showed up at 6. She was in her early 20s, clean cut, exactly like her profile photo. She brought a bag of coloring books and stickers. My daughter liked her immediately. We left for dinner. About an hour into the meal, I got a Nextdoor notification. Someone had replied to my original babysitter recommendation post. The comment was from a woman named Denise, and it said, "Just saw this thread. Please be careful. There is no Abby associated with the neighborhood babysitting co-op. I've been running the co-op for 6 years. I don't know who that is." I felt my stomach drop. I scrolled back through the thread. Patris's original comment recommending Abby was gone. Deleted. I went to Patris's profile. Deactivated. I went to Abby's profile. Deactivated. I called home. No answer. I called again. Nothing. I called a 3rd time. On the 6th ring, Abby picked up. She sounded calm. She said my daughter was asleep and the phone had been in the other room. I asked her about Patris. She said Patris was her aunt. I asked for Patris's phone number. She hesitated, then gave me one. I told her we were heading back. In the car, I called the number she gave me for Patris. It was disconnected. Not a voicemail, not a wrong number. A hard disconnect. The number wasn't in service. We drove home fast. When we pulled into the driveway, the front door was open. Not wide open, just slightly ajar, like someone had left in a hurry and hadn't pulled it all the way shut. Abby was gone. The coloring books were still on the table. The stickers were still out. The TV was on, playing a children's show on mute. My daughter was in her crib, asleep. She was fine, but her pajamas had been changed. She'd been wearing the yellow ones with the ducks when we left. Now she was in a white onesie I'd never seen before. It wasn't ours. I'd never bought it. It was brand new, tag still attached. The tag had a handwritten price on it, like it was from a second-hand store. On the inside collar, in small blue ink, someone had written a name. It wasn't my daughter's name. It was a different name. A girl's name I didn't recognize. We called the police. They came, took a report, took the onesie as evidence. They ran the name written inside the collar. It belonged to a 4-year-old girl from a town about 40 miles south. She'd been reported missing 7 months earlier. The detectives told us very little after that. They said the case was active and they couldn't share details, but one of them pulled me aside before leaving and said something I will never forget. He said, "You came home at the right time. I've never found out who Abby was. Nextdoor couldn't recover the deleted profiles. There were no fingerprints on the coloring books or the stickers. The only trace of her that exists is the onesie with the other girl's name on it, and the 16 minutes of footage from our nanny, Cam, that I'd forgotten to mention to Abby. 16 minutes where she sat perfectly still on the couch, not looking at her phone, not watching TV, not checking on my daughter, just sitting, staring at the front door, like she was waiting for someone else to come in.
And that's where tonight's file closes, but the archives are far from empty. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more horrors, mysteries, and true crimes hidden in the horror archives. Until next time, keep the lights low, keep listening, because you never know what story we'll uncover next.